Thanks for listening to the Swearing In podcast, where you'll hear the origin stories of those who chose to serve. So ground your gear, take a seat, and listen up. The Swearing In podcast starts right now.
Hail, hail, infantry!
Hail, hail, infantry!
Queen of battle, follow me!
Queen of battle, follow me!
And airborne rangers fight for me!
And airborne rangers fight for me!
Oh, nothing in this world is free!
Oh, nothing in this world is free!
Welcome to the Swearing In podcast. I am your host, Marty Smith. My guest today is former Army Staff Sergeant, owner of Zenith Authentic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and co-host of From the Ashes podcast, Seth Rodenbaugh. Seth was born in Nebraska and moved to Colorado when he was 12 and eventually attended East High School in Denver. He had an interest in the military, but it wasn't until the attacks on 9/11 that he joined. He swore into the Army on September 12th, 2001. Seth attended Basic and AIT at Fort Benning, Georgia as an 11 Bravo infantry. His first assignment was to 235 Infantry at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, where he was later assigned to the Scout Sniper section. In 2003, he went back to Fort Benning to attend sniper school. After completing Sniper and Airborne Schools, he deployed to Kandahar, Afghanistan in 2004. During that deployment, he was assigned to a Counter-IED Sniper Task Force. After returning to Schofield, he re-enlisted and was assigned to the 127 Infantry Wolfhounds. Seth left the military as a staff sergeant in 2009. Now this concludes your pre-brief, so let's get on with the interview. Staff Sergeant Seth Rodenbaugh, thanks for joining me today. It's a pleasure to get your story the second time.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is what you got when you deal with an amateur podcaster. You get,
you know what? Like I told you, it happened to us on our From the Ashes show just like a month ago, and it was frustrating. So I understand things happen.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. You grew up in Nebraska, right?
I did. Small farm town in Nebraska. I lived there until I was about 12. And then I went from small town Nebraska to East Colfax, Denver.
You attended East High School or the East Eagles? Is that what they were?
Angels.
Angels? Really?
Angels. No, right?
The East Angels. Where did the military come out? What were you planning on doing out of high school?
Yeah, so I didn't have an exact plan coming out of high school. I started working really young and always had like a decent job. I never had a minimum wage fast food job. I always had like a pretty good job. And then one side of my family is like entirely military, basically. I think 100%. I can't think of a male inside that side of my immediate that didn't serve. We got World War II. We got a Vietnam Ranger. We got a female pilot. We have a couple really high-ranking officers. So I mean, it was like kind of already in my blood, and I thought about it a lot. And I was investigating. Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And then I started really like looking at the uniforms, and I was like, man, there's no way I'm eliminating the Navy right now. I ain't wearing that. There's just no way. None of that. None of it. I'm out. And then I contemplated doing security forces for the Air Force. Yeah. And then it just didn't really grab me. I ended up going to the Army.
Did any recruiters come and talk to you? At high school or anything?
Not at high school, but I had contacted lots of recruiters post high school.
Okay.
Yeah, and then did a lot of investigation and all that fun stuff. And then the attacks happened on September 11th, and because I'd already been in talks with recruiters, it was really easy for me to be literally at MEPS September 12th. So the day after the attacks, I was like, all right, now let's go. So
where were you when they were happening?
Sitting on my couch,
Oh, okay.
like literally, like I don't remember if I worked late that day or what, but I was sitting there watching it as all of a sudden, like the headline news, was going.
Right. And they broke into everything then.
Oh, it did. It was just craziness. But.
So you went over to MEPS 2001, September 12th is when you signed up.
Yep.
Is that when you swore? Is that when you swore in or no?
I did the fake swear in.
Oh, the fake swearing.
I love how they do that. Like this whole the whole system of recruiting and in processing is so funny. They're like, you're sworn in now. If you don't come back, you're AWOL and they'll come hunt you down. Which
I know.
Totally not the truth, but whatever. I probably said the same damn thing. So yeah, my official entry date was like October 2nd or 3rd, something like that.
Okay. So did you go in knowing what job you wanted? I mean, have you taken the ASVAB and all that stuff by this time? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So you knew going in, you were like infantry all the way?
Yeah, I did. I did the known contract or whatever, where like I knew everything. So I had duty station done, MOS, all that fun stuff. So yeah, went to Benning, went to OSUT, one station unit training where we, for infantry, it's not basic and AIT, it's just fucking infantry school.
When do they decide if you're going to go like light or mech?
I believe,
is there a decision point for that, or do they just like, okay, you made it through, we're sticking you with mechanized or something?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with like your duty station. Like I went to a light. I was assigned to a light division, so I was going to be 11 Bravo, 11 Charlie, one or the other. Either infantry or infantry mortar. So, but I came out with a regular, just 11 Bravo identifier.
Okay. Was it the mic? Was that the mechanized one? It used to be a long time ago.
I literally, I'm going to age myself a little bit because I don't really remember. And I know so little bit about mechanized. I'll tell you the truth. I don't know. I've never even worked with a mech unit. Yeah.
So while you're at OSUT and Benning, it's now Fort Moore now, While you were there, did you go to jump school?
No, I didn't. When I went, I just did my OSUT and then straight to my unit. So
you went to your first assignment was out of Schofield.
Out of Schofield,
235 infantry, right?
Yeah, my original contract was to Fort Drum, and I had a high school girlfriend basically I lived with, and I called her and I was like, I was at MEPS and they're like all these other things that opened up. And, she knew I was on contract to go to New York. And I was like, man, they got all these other things. And she's like, what is there? And I'm like, oh, and I listed them all off. And she's like, there's Hawaii. And all of a sudden it was a much more serious thing. I think that was, she had beaches in her eyes. And so I switched to Hawaii, went to Hawaii. We did one of those paper up weddings.
Yeah, sure.
She can be a dependent in between basic and showing up in my unit.
I was gonna say you took her with you.
Yep, took her with me.
Did you leave with her?
What's that?
Did you leave with her?
Oh, definitely not. I'm an Army guy. Without a divorce or 5, something's not with you. Not a good soldier if you don't got a
Yeah, that's right. It's on the checklist. So
it's on the checklist, right? So no, I went to my unit, and like the coolest, luckiest thing I think in my career was when I signed up, or when I showed up to my unit, they had just started posting around that they were going to run a selection for the sniper unit. And
nice.
And they had a handful of requirements, not a ton, but it was like, your GT score had to be whatever it was to be there. And I don't know how. Okay, I'm not a book smart man. It is not my way of life. Somehow I have a freaky high GT score, like the highest I've ever.
Really?
I think I've never ran into somebody with a higher one. I have a crazy high GT score. So check that box. And then it's like, you got to max your PT test. And I'm like, I've never maxed a PT test. And then, that
run is pretty damn fast. To max it, that's a pretty fast max time to run it.
Oh, I didn't just, so the max time for like young men is like 13. I run like sub 11. So,
so it wasn't that was a problem.
No, I love to run. I used to distance run a lot. Can't anymore.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I loved running. So yeah, I went to selection, made it fairly easily, and was in the scout sniper section for my unit, and spent a good chunk of my time there. I was moving into being an E5 before I ever moved out of that unit or out of that platoon and section. So
damn. So wait,
yeah.
you got there what, 2002? You get out there, right?
Yeah, very beginning of 2002.
So how long before you got selected to go to sniper school? Or did you just get assigned to the scout sniper platoon?
I just got assigned to the section. And then because there are so few slots for
sure.
actual sniper school, where you go to the sniper school, like schoolhouse.
Yeah.
And I will get into that at some point, because somehow that subject came up, and I wanted to touch on that. But
Good.
There's so few slots for the entire Army that, 25th ain't getting a bunch of them, So
Yeah.
I actually had all my bags packed, my packing list done. I had my orders, had my flights and everything to go to Ranger School.
Oh.
And my platoon sergeant calls me. He goes, "Hey, I know you're supposed to leave." I think we had like a 4-day weekend, so I was like enjoying my weekend before I headed out to the suck fest at Ranger School. He calls me up. He's like, "Hey, we got 2 slots at sniper school in a week to take on. Do you want to, like, you can always go to Ranger School, unlimited slots. You can go whenever you want.
Yeah.
Or you want to take this slot that we don't ever get for sniper school." I'm like, "Fuck, that's an easy decision. Send me my new packing list." And so, swapped out the packing list for sniper school packing list. I had 2 or 3 different ghillies.
Because you being in the scout platoon.
Yeah.
But I
needed a schoolhouse one. Schoolhouse is a little bit more particular about, how to do certain things. I make them how I want to make them. Schoolhouse, exactly like the schoolhouse. So I was lucky enough. One of my mentors inside that section, I had just left being an instructor, part of the cadre down at the schoolhouse. So we made a very, very good, a really nice, like, check the box. You're like the perfect ghillie.
Yeah.
You show up and they're laying out all the ghillies, and they're like gigging people for everything. They come look at mine. They're like, "You're going to need to add a lot of natural veg to that." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's what you do before you start your op. I know." And they're like, "That's pretty much it." And I'm like, the whole time I was just groomed very well for going to the school. So
it wasn't like a kid at school where it was like, "Who helped you with this?" Right?
It was a little bit of that. So I was pretty lucky in that.
So 03, you're back to is it Benning? Benning is where the
so 03 back to Benning for school. And I definitely think that was one of the highlights of my career. Like, sniper school sucks. Okay. For those soldiers that actually went to sniper school, they didn't do a remote school. So one of the other things the Army does is they'll take a couple of the instructors, they'll go to a division, they'll grab a couple Bravo 4 guys to help assist the cadre, and they'll run a gentleman's course, which is basically 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. They still get to Bravo 4 identifier. They did not go to fucking sniper school.
That sucks.
They got sniper qualified, and there's a very big difference.
I'm reading through the 6 or 7 weeks, and it's ridiculous the amount of stuff they make you do. Holy shit!
It's rough. It is very challenging, to say the least. Like, not only mentally, or not only physically. Like, you're thinking about doing stock lanes and shooting and all this, and like, I went in the middle of summer in Georgia in a ghillie suit.
Oh God!
Fire ants, snakes, spiders, hot as shit, humid, crawling around in a ghillie suit, physically demanding. But the other problem is the mental demanding part when you're that exhausted from the physical part,
right.
Like trying to do fucking math. I don't do math.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I'm an infantry guy. Math is not my dig. Right. So I'm trying to calculate, windage and slope dope and shooting things. And, it was very challenging, but I think that's what made it like one of the absolute biggest highlights of my career is because I'm like, I went through that shit, and 44 dudes showed up to my class. Only 8 of us graduated.
That's pretty good. I'm surprised it was 8. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean,
well, tell me about that. So what is it broken up into phases?
Yeah, so you have your shooting phase, even though you shoot the whole time you're there.
Yeah.
You have your target identification phase, which is challenge is another one of my weaknesses. I can't draw a stick figure that looks like he's not handicapped, right? Like I am not an artist. But you draw a picture and they put 5 different unnatural items out there, like the cap for an optic or a magazine or a round or something like that.
Yeah,
And you're searching this area through binoculars and a scope, and you have to draw the area. And I'm like, I can't even tell what I draw.
Yeah.
That's somebody else. Then you got to draw the things and identify them and list them. So did the stalking phase where you crawl up and shoot a blank round, and they try and walk another cadre on top of you. And if they find you, you're done. If they don't find you, you have to pull a second round. And then identify a card. They hold up a card, 12, 6, 3, or 9.
Yeah.
Time where you want to see it. They'll hold up the sign. It's a number or a letter. You have to identify it. And then you have to take a second shot when they already know where you're at.
Yeah.
And then they try and walk on top of you again. Definitely a challenging phase. I had done a lot of stalking going into this, which helped me a little bit. And I made a joke with my sniper buddy that went with me. One of my absolute best friends in the world, still is. He even post Army, he lives in New York. He moved out to Denver with me for like 2 years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're buddies. So either way, we went together, but I had done a lot of stalking before. And I was joking with him. I was like, I bet you money I don't fucking crawl once on a stalk lane. And he's like, you are not making it through stalk lanes without crawling. I was like, I'll walk. And he's like, you will not. I walked every single one of my stalks. Walked up, laid down, took my shot.
Really? How were you able to do that?
Tree stacking.
Stacking? Huh.
So if you can stack trees where they're like slightly off, okay, as long as you know where
I see.
heading from, I can stack the trees and walk right up.
Yeah.
Sit down, maybe roll over once, but that's it. So I just walk up.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Because I always knew, like, your eyes get tired of looking through glass.
Right.
You sit there and look through an optic for a long time, your eyes start getting tired. So I would walk up and I would be set in way before everybody else. And I would lay there until the second or third to last person.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be last, but I damn sure I was first one set in, but I ain't pulling that first round when they got fresh eyes.
Right.
So I'd wait towards the end of the stock, do my stock and be done. And, not exhausted from falling. So I feel
good.
like one of the things about being a sniper is being able to look at a situation and find the best strategy to complete the mission in the most lazy way. And people are like, being lazy. I'm like, well, there's another word for laziness. It's called efficiency.
Right? I was going to say, yeah.
I'm trying to save my energy. I'm not trying to bust up my gear.
Yeah.
I'm doing it the easiest way possible to complete the mission.
Yeah.
With energy still to go. So yeah, I got stocks.
Where'd you learn all that from? Did you hunt or?
No, did
you learn it on the streets of Colfax?
No, like I said, I had a great mentor in my sniper section.
Okay.
It got me a lot for that. And then, being in Hawaii, the Hawaii vegetation and, jungle-ish atmosphere is not the same as being in the forest in Georgia.
Right.
But it's similar where, I have lots of vegetation. I have lots of shrubs and trees and stuff like that. So I knew how to work through that stuff fairly well,
Lots of red dirt too.
Oh God, that nasty, it's not dirt, it's clay.
Right. Yeah. Especially when you try to dig into that shit. So,
oh my God.
So what was the most difficult thing you had that gave you the most trouble at sniper school?
I think probably, overthinking the math part.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was fearful of math just because it just was not my jam.
Sure.
All honesty out there, I have still yet to pass a college algebra class. I had to have my wife help me out. And I've taken a bunch of them every single time. I'm like, I'll be cruising the first week or two. And then all of a sudden, oh crap, me and math just don't get along. So, I overthought it a lot.
Yeah.
And so I was like, everything has to be perfect. And I'm like, yeah, you can just beer math that. So
yeah, sure. As long as you hit the target, who cares what you
as long as you make contact, you shoot a big enough round to where you just got to make contact.
Now, I don't know how old this article was that I was reading, but a couple of things I had a question on. They have a section where it's like unknown range, right? There's some point periods of time. Was that difficult, or I mean, especially when you got limited shots, right? I mean,
yes,
when you don't know the range, windage, and all that.
When you're doing your shooting test, it's unknown distance of targets. They're just it's just a steel target with a number on it.
Oh,
so you got an instructor behind you, and they're like, shoot target 6. That doesn't mean it's 600 meters out. That just means it's target with a 6. And so you range it out. You either you're measuring the silhouette, you're looking at the rod, things like that. You get your range, and you get 2 rounds to hit it. Jeez. You got your spotter to help you out. So I mean, there's some challenges to that. Again, I did okay with ranging. That wasn't one of my challenge or a huge challenge. It's always a challenge, but that one I wasn't like stressing that one.
Yeah.
And then I actually took I would love to say I was honor grad, and I'd love to say I was top shot, because either one of those would be super badass, and I didn't get either one of them. Right. But I took second place in the course, and I took second place in shooting. So I was a runner.
That's all right. Yeah.
That means I can shoot pretty damn good, and I know the subject matter pretty damn good. I might not be the best, but I'm close, and I'm balanced. I don't have I didn't really have a hole in my job where I'm like, this is the area I really suck at.
Yeah. Plus, it's more believable when you tell the story. It's like, I was second. And you're like, oh shit, that's really good. But if you come up and you're like, I was top shot, and you're like, yeah, sure, buddy.
You better fucking show me the paperwork. I'm a paperwork guy. Don't tell me shit unless you can prove it to me. Right?
This article said their final thing, and I can't remember. It was maybe after a road march, and then you got two rounds to hit this one target, and that's where they I guess they lost a couple people on that at the very end of it. Now, that's what the article was saying, so I don't know.
You do a stress fire. And again, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but it has now been 20 years since I've been there. So, and I've been hit in the head a few times, been blown up a few times. I fell out of a fucking helicopter at one point in my career. So I've had some booms to the head, so my memory's not always great. But we did do a stress fire where you're running in for a good distance. You're getting smoked, you're climbing shit, and then you're taking shots, which
that's tough, man.
Not shots of tequila, trying to take shots, and still hit your target. But that's real life. That's what happens when you're in combat.
Right.
You don't walk up and get into your shooting stand like all these amazing civilian competition guys, and like you get there and you get all unlimited time to make this perfect shot. It isn't like. So that was actually fun. I like that stuff. So
they just had a couple, maybe last month, they just had the top sniper competition.
Yeah.
Like 3 guard guys won it. But they're on the guard shooting team or something like that. So it was pretty cool to watch some of that, especially when they went almost like 3-gun. I wasn't sure if it was like a 3-gun competition, but they went into pistols. And they had M16s at one time, or the M4s at one time. So it wasn't just with the sniper rifles. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. That's actually, touching on the cool factor of being a sniper, because there's some cool shit in that. I mean, that's what you see in the fucking movies and late night dramas, and and God truly does love his American soldier, but he loves his snipers more. So it's a really cool job until you start thinking about some of the aspects of it. They're like, man, did you ever get to shoot that 50 cal? I'm like, yeah, I also had to carry that bitch.
Right.
And when you carry it, that doesn't mean that's the only rifle you carry. You're still carrying your regular rifle, just like the guy next to you, but you also have this big hunking, piece of metal. Right. So there's some suck factor to the coolness, where and that's reality, because you can't just carry around a bolt action rifle combat. You need to be able to protect yourself. to get to the place to take that shot.
Well, to be honest with you, most of the sniper profession is a suck.
Yeah.
I mean, really, for a couple trigger pulls, but then all the time that you got to wait, all the time that you got to egress and ingress, or ingress and egress, or however that goes. That sucks.
You learn some patience.
Patience, yeah.
The thing is, the primary job of a sniper isn't to pull a trigger. It's to relay battlefield information. I won't get the exact wording, but it's to relay battlefield information to the commander, et cetera, which is another cool thing and thing that helped me out a lot in my career was early on as a private, when you're a sniper and the commander is doing like a sand table and they're doing the op order for the entire unit or brigade. And each platoon sergeant or company commander, usually company commanders, this is where my assets are going to be. This is how they're moving. Right. Fucking Rodenbaugh is here. Okay, well, hi, all you commanders. Like, this is where I'm going to be. I'm giving fucking op orders when I'm a brand new private, and I think that was incredibly beneficial because down the road when you become an NCO and you're writing op orders, you're doing all this different stuff. I'm like, I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit.
But the first time you got to address some 05 as an E3, you're like, fuck. That can't be fun.
At least there's not high expectations for me.
No, if you get the right 05. I ran into like all the wrong 05s and every time I had to brief them. So you finish up in 2003, you're back with 235. And then
I didn't actually.
You didn't?
I went to jump school after sniper school. So
okay.
I graduated sniper school, and my platoon sergeant told me, he's like, hey, the second you graduate, give me a call and let's see if we can keep you at Benning to see if we can get another school, either get you into Ranger school since you're already slotted to go, or get you into jump school. Let's see if you while you're down there, we can get you into something. So I call him and he's like, I don't have anything for you right now. And he's like, the problem is now I think my PRP certificate, my pre-ranger cert, was too out of date for me to stay there for ranger school. So I can redo my pre-ranger. Yeah. So my platoon sergeant's like, hey, why don't you just take some leave? And I'm like, all right. So I put in some leave paperwork for me. I went back home. So it's getting close to the end of my leave. And I'm like, I give him a call. I'm like, hey, bro, you got, am I coming back to unit? Am I going back? What am I doing? He's like, just stay in a holding pattern. I'm like, bro, I don't even have leave orders. Like, you just put it in for me, supposedly, right?
Right.
Just stay home for a little bit. I'll sort it out. I'm like, all right. And mind you, he's been my platoon sergeant for a while now. He actually, he was my team leader, and then he became my platoon sergeant for that platoon. So I mean, known him for a while, mentored me a lot in my career. So he's like, just hang out. And I'm like, all right. So I end up with like, I think a month, maybe over a month of fucking leave, just hanging out at home. Like, or,
nobody has that much leave that early in their career.
Right. So anyways, like go report to jump school. So I go to airborne school, walk in, sign in, and, day one, they're like trying to get my paperwork sorted out. And they're like, we don't have a slot for you. I know you have a piece of paper here that was faxed to you from the platoon sergeant, but you don't actually have a slot here. And so they put me in holdover at airborne school. And then I just kind of tripped and fell into the next rotation. They didn't let me into the one I showed up to, but I just kept showing up and ended up and so then I get to airborne school, which I'm not going to lie, I hated that fucking school. That school fuck that place. That was, and the other thing is I just left sniper school and they fucking treat you rough in sniper school. I've never held a goddamn rifle over my head for more hours and days. The NCOIC, the sergeant in charge of sniper school at the time, he used to put George Jones' Choices, that song, on fucking repeat. And we would just stand there and he would like, I'll just say, talk to us. I mean, arms locked out. You're only allowed to zero your rifle once. Okay. Unless catastrophic failure happens, you set your zero when you show up and you got to hold that zero. If it falls off, you're adjusting your dope. Right. Don't drop your rifle. So you just hold that, listen to George Jones' Choices on repeat every night. So when you got done with training, every fucking night you're holding that rifle, you know, and they would always find an excuse like, you know, you get off the shooting line and they'd be, you know, you got to place all your brass and all that. They would find some fucking rusty old piece of crap that they probably just put their casing, be like, oh, you didn't clean up. I'm like, that is not from us, but okay, we're going to hold the rifle tonight because we were already going to, you know, we did it every night. And there's no old Georgetown's fucking torturous. Yeah.
So jump school can't hold a candle, but they try. They think they can.
Yeah, I think it's a jump school, and like, I mean, we didn't even shave. We didn't get haircuts. We wore whatever the fuck we wanted to when we were sniper school. We were there with a focus on getting better at this job, right?
Yeah.
We ran pretty loose, right? I get to airborne school, and like I go in the chow hall, and I was like back in basic where you can only go fucking clockwise.
Right.
Like, fuck, this is stupid. This is not basic, guys.
I know.
But just
no talking while you're eating. Yeah. I gotcha.
Yeah. I was not. Yeah, I just didn't enjoy it. And I also am scared deathly of heights. I fucking hate heights.
Really?
I don't like being in a tall building. Like if you're on the third story and you got a balcony like apartment, I don't even like going out on the. I do not like being up in the air. My feet need to be on the ground. I like anyway.
Was Tower Week the worst for you then?
I did not actually go off the tower thing, but I did the swing, jump off into the gravel pit.
I mean, because that's where you can see the ground and you're like, fuck, I could get hurt here, right? Yeah.
It all sucked. But you know what I did figure out right away is, you know, when you're going out the door, you just go. Because I watched some people get kicked out. Okay. There's this I was number 2 out the door for one of my jumps. And in my stick lane, there was this little tiny red-haired girl that was like in between college and going to OCS, you know, when I send them to us sometimes.
Right.
So she's fucking 21, 22-year-old little 5 foot, 100-pound thing. And she froze on the door.
Oh, no.
Shit out of her. And she went out like a fucking, you know, shoot up bag of dicks. And I was like, that didn't happen to me. So I turned the corner and I fucking burnt right out. You know, I never messed around. Right. And then got to the ground as quick as possible. So
I was in the door on my first jump. And when the light hit and he sound off, I jumped as hard as I could, or so I thought. And I got down and I was talking to my buddies. I was like, did I look good? And he's like, he had his foot on your ass the whole time. But you got so much, you know, I didn't know he had his foot on my ass. But he was like, I think I talked to him. He goes, first guy cannot stop in the door. So I was making sure you were going out. And I was so deflated. I was like, oh, I thought it was me.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was super cool to get my wings, but I did not enjoy that school. I mean, I enjoyed the party factor because airborne school is like the most gentleman course in the world. They barely smoke you.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's not physically demanding. You wake up in the morning, you do a half-ass PT, like, you know, you do your day of jumping and falling on the ground, and stupidity, and then you're off and you go.
Then
drink
you're off.
Yeah. So it's that aspect. I mean, I can't complain about that. So anyway, so I finished up jump school, and I'm at the we talked about this last time. It's funny. I hit LAX, right, and I mean, mind you, I've been gone for
a while now.
Like 4 months, 5 months, 4 or 5 months at this point, between this extended leave and holdover for airborne and then airborne school, sniper school, all this stuff. Like, I mean, I was gone for a while. I had half a deployment underneath my belt. So I'm at LAX and I open up my phone. I got fucking text messages blowing up and voicemails. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And a bunch of it's my platoon sergeant's wife. And I'm like, listening to his voicemails, and she's like, hey, the whole fucking time you've been gone, my husband's been boning your wife. And I'm like, oh, shit. What the fuck? Like, so I get home. Really? And of course, you know.
Now, wait a minute. You get that in LA. You still got a 3-4 hour flight to Hawaii to sit and stew with that, right?
Sit and stew a little bit.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, you know, everybody involved swears up and down at that time, swore up and down like, oh, that didn't happen. Oh, that didn't happen. And then, you know, later down the road, things were admitted. But, you know, so I go back and fucking, you know.
And this was the mentor, right?
Yeah, this dude, like, literally, like, basically the first leadership immediately individual, my team leader who turned into my platoon sergeant, like my boy, who was supposed to be like taking care of my shit while I was gone, which he was legitimately taking care of.
Maybe he had a different interpretation of taking care of it.
Right. God. So very quickly, I, changed some bank accounts and filed for fucking divorce, and she came home and there's paperwork out like, here's your flights, here's your shit, I'll see you later.
Nice.
What was great about that is when I first got there, I mean, she was only in Hawaii with me for a very short amount of time, a year or so.
Yeah. Half of that you weren't even there.
Oh, more than half I wasn't there. So probably part of the problem, but
yeah, maybe.
I didn't really enjoy Hawaii when I first got there, which sounds crazy, but like I'm like, all right, it's fucking sand and water.
Yeah.
And I'm on a floating rock. This is, right. I didn't quite have that. I hadn't found that love for Hawaii. Fucking got single, found a love for Hawaii. I started training Jitsu nonstop.
Oh, you did? Oh, nice.
Yeah. Helson Gracie, actually, for those of you who don't know, it's Hoyce's older brother who actually trained Hoyce for the UFC.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, he lives in Hawaii. So I started training at one of his academies, and really dove into that more and more. I started fighting for All Army.
Had you ever done it before?
Yeah, I've been doing martial arts since I was like 4 years old.
Oh, okay.
I haven't specifically trained jiu-jitsu yet. So I'm definitely a lifelong martial artist. Love that. Still am. And so
I'm sorry, I cut you off. You started fighting for All Army?
Yeah, I fought for All Army. I was on the Pacific team for like 5 years, something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
God, that's pretty.
I was actually, and I'm dating myself. The last time I fought the international tournament, all right, for the entire Army, was the final year of Tim Kennedy fighting in it, in which, of course, he won. He was a fucking pro fighter fighting for IFL. Then it was shortly before he went to the UFC. But yeah, Tim was fighting at the same international tournament.
Wow. Wow. Where was it held
at? Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So if I'm in your unit, I'd be like, this guy's never effing here. He's been gone at schools. Now he's fighting All Army. He's gone for all those tournaments. And
then they would pull me. I commonly would get pulled for cadre for teaching combatives courses.
Oh, so shit.
I would randomly do that. And then I didn't just go. I mean, I went to so many damn schools, like everything they could put me into when I was in my scout sniper section, like that section always got prioritization of schools. Sure. So, I mean, this radio school, this medical shit, go do this, constantly.
Yeah, badges all up and down your chest then.
Oh, I was fucking stacked. The only one I'm missing, I'm pissed off about, is I still never went and got my Ranger tab, but well,
I
can also, they can keep those 63, 64 days of not eating and not sleeping. I'm fine. I can write a fucking op order. I'm good. I can run a patrol. I'm over it. So, and that's, I spent a little bit of time before I deployed, but then I, quickly after that went to OEF 3.
In 2004, right?
So I showed up at the end of OEF 2, and then was there through OEF 3.
Where'd you guys go?
We started off in Kandahar for a short amount of time. Then we moved out to a fire base called Fire Base Lagman, which was we were basically supposed to go do a patrol, and we never left where we went to do our patrol. So it was not a built up fire base. It was built for permanent staying. I mean, fuck, we didn't have showers there for I think 5 or 6 months. So
what was the fire base called?
Fire Base Lagman.
Lagman? Oh, named after somebody.
There's a 10th Mountain Soldier that was killed near there. So
what are you thinking? I mean, are you nervous? You're excited? You finally going to get to employ maybe some of the stuff you've been training on?
I was fucking pumped. That's what you train to do. And I felt
right.
There's all these units getting deployed, and I didn't realize the 25th just wasn't going to deploy for a while when I went there. So, I spent my first few years just learning, and which I'm appreciative of, because I'm very happy I wasn't day one Dingleberry Private Carl downrange,
Yeah, sure.
And then, so we get to Firebase Lagman, and this day one of my fire base was the first time I got blown up. So we're unloading the trucks, dumping our bags, and my squad leader goes, he goes, hey, he's like, the whole team, well, most of the team was like, hey, we're here for a purpose. Let's hit as many patrols as we can. Let's fucking get after it. If they're looking for who's, hitting the door first, our team's our squad's hitting the door first. Right. We're gonna have fun. So squad leader comes up and he's like, hey, here's the thing. We're supposed to be running right now, picking our tent and like our living quarters and all this, but also we could be first patrol out of the fire base. And I'm like, nice. We're first patrol out. And he's like, leave your bags on the fucking ground. Don't get out of the truck, basically. So we drive out of the fire base. And it was about, I want to say it was a 4 to 6 hour round trip patrol. We were dropping off some security for an SF base.
Oh, okay.
And halfway along the fucking trip, we're going through this gulch. We're going one direction, a van full of local nationals. We later found out were political candidates for the first elections. As they were passing us, a remote detonated IED, which happened to be a missile pointed upwards, got fired. It actually hit. So I, of course, was not in the era of up armors. The only thing we had was like bolt-on shit on the side, the sandbags in the bed of the 998s. So the rocket actually hit directly underneath my ass where that plate was, and it shot behind me. So it blew up, fucking killed a bunch of people in the van, fucked everybody up. I got thrown out of the truck, bumps, bruises, but I was fine.
Do you think they were, their target was the van and you guys just happened to be there at the same time?
I mean,
I guess you never get that.
Half a dozen one, 6 the other, or it was either one of us could have been the target and they just happened to try and get 2 and 1,
Right.
Either way. Again, another moment in my career where I was thankful for is that was a real rude awakening to, you're in a fucking country where like you could die. Like you could not leave the country with a heart rate. Fucking keep your head on a swivel. Right. And I did for the rest of the country. I was on point. And I also
how long did it take you to recover from that?
From that, I mean, I didn't do anything that one. I was busted up, but I mean, bumps, bruises, scratches, and I was fine.
Okay.
I moved on just fine from that. I definitely there was plenty of jokes running around about me being a magnet because I seem to find a way to be in the middle of some shit all the time.
How many times did you drive outside the wire, and how many vehicles did you return with?
So I drove 8 vehicles out of the wire, and I have driven 0 into the wire. I mean, this isn't like 2 or 3 times. This isn't like maybe sometimes a vehicle came back. I'm not even a fucking driver at this point. I didn't even go to driving school. I'm a team leader.
Yeah.
Something would happen where like we need somebody to drive for a patrol or something. They're like, hey, Seth, you jump in real quick. Yeah, sure. Fucking boom. Or I rolled one. I drove one through a mud hut. In a firefight, I overheated one and blew a motor. One got blown up really bad. Like, I mean, it just, I was, don't give me military equipment. I will put it to the test. So anyway, 8 vehicles drove out. And I remember we'll get to the last one towards the end, but right. I just, I was always, alert and trying to stay alive.
Yeah, sure.
Because it was, for me, that's what it was, from the get. So towards the end, or actually not towards the end, about the halfway point, I had, which is the second time I got blown up. We're sitting there, we're about to just do a local patrol, nothing serious. And my whole squad was fucking out. Like one of them was in Kandahar, because I rolled a truck and his leg somehow got rolled over on. He shouldn't have stuck it there, but so he's healing up in Kandahar, and a couple of guys were on mid-tour leave. And there was like, I think my whole squad of 9, there was 2 of us or 3 of us. There's very few. So like, hey, you driving? And I'm like, hey, I've driven 7 vehicles out of this fucking wire. Have we not realized it is not a good idea for me to be behind the wheel? Sure enough, I drive this fucking truck 50 meters outside of the front gates of the fire base and got blown up 50 meters in front of the fucking fire base. Catastrophically bad. Nobody died, but the guy next to me was a good friend of mine, and he was very, very injured.
Oh yeah.
Somehow he continued his career, but after tons of rehabilitation, tons of surgeries, very, very, very long, painful struggle for him. And I was pretty busted up too. And again, whenever I share this story, I always pre-warn people, I have my version. There's the truthful version, which I don't really know what is. And then I have what all my buddies kind of told me about because I don't really know.
Yeah.
A little concussed to say the least. So I came to, and this part I know is true because my buddy verifies it. I was upside down hanging out of the 998 by my rigger belt. So, I get out, I grab my M4. I swear I can remember this clear as day. I see a fucking dude, man dress, Haji. Sorry if I offended somebody. Actually, I'm not. But I see him. I take off after him. I'm fucking laying rounds down range, put him down, sling my weapon. I come back. I'm trying to give medical aid to my buddy that's really fucked up, who's in like a crater.
Oh, jeez.
It was a double stacked anti-tank mine. So, I mean, what that does to a 998 and what that does to a crater in the road is pretty significant. So what really happened is I came to consciousness, got off the truck, and I was going in and out of consciousness, running around like an idiot, completely fell in the hole on top of my buddy who's busted up. Fucking, I'm a shit show. And again, I said I was laying rounds downrange going after somebody. In my mind, I still can remember this.
Really?
But when they looked at my M4, my upper and lower receiver had been peeled open and the internals of my M4. It was very far from functioning. So they air evac'd me out to Kandahar. I was able to walk, highly concussed. Was having vision issues from, head to toe. I was in a lot of pain, but I had no need to be laying in a fucking hospital bed. So I kept like taking off. So I'd be like, I'm going to the bathroom, and fucking I'm out. Like I'm like trying to get out and trying to get back to a tent, trying to go back and get fucking clothes because I'm in a gown. They'd cut everything off.
Right.
So, anyway, they finally, I said earlier that one of my soldiers was there recovering from a knee injury, but he was in a tent on his own. He wasn't in the hospital, but he kept coming and hanging out with me during the day.
Yeah.
So they finally took a hand receipt, wrote my social on it, and hand receipted me to him as a sensitive item. So like he's fucking running around. We're going to hand receipt him. He is your responsibility. We'll address you guys later. Come check in like twice. Wow. We had to go check in like twice a day. So my commander called me in, and while I was recovering, he's like, hey, you're due for your mid-tour leave. Why don't you take your mid-tour leave now? I'm going to extend it. I'm going to give you like an extra week. So rather than your 2 weeks, take an extra week, recover a little bit. You need to get medically cleared before you come back.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. No big deal. So I take my leave. And at the time, my mom was actually going through med school. So I went down to her university. They did they checked me out head to toe, like not Army hospital care, not VA hospital care. I was, got checked out very, very well. And was told very clearly there's no way I would get cleared for fucking anything, much less goddamn go to combat. So, I had a fractured vertebrae, had all sorts of, torn. I was still having severe eyesight issues or vision issues. I could sometimes see, there were times where like everything down the middle was like fuzzy black, and I had peripheral, and sometimes I was having some pretty bad vision issues. So I decided it would behoove me not to go get cleared because I wouldn't get cleared. So I just went back. I just went back down range. Yeah. So, I get to Kandahar, get the first bird I can to get to my fire base, head into my hooch, start unpacking stuff that's got a lot of dust on it. And before I could even come close to being unpacked and ready to go, I got summons down in the commander's office. So I run down there and he goes, hey, I don't know what exactly you're about to go do, but there's a bird on the way. Pack your shit. You're going to end up at Bagram. You need to check into 120th Military Intelligence LRSD Special Operations Teams.
Yeah. Nice.
They're going to run some sort of task force and they need snipers. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm back out of the fucking line infantry because I had just moved to the line infantry because I needed line time for promotions.
Right.
I wasn't a fan of being on the line. So I was pumped. I'm like, fuck yeah, I get to go look through a scope.
Did they
again.
do that once you got over there? They took you out of the scout platoon and just put you in the regular company?
I want to say 2 or 3 weeks before I deployed.
Oh, okay.
There was like 2 of us that had spent our entire career in sniper section and had never been on the line. And we were both like E5s or about to be E5s. They're like, you have to have line time. And I'm like, all right. So yeah, I basically went to the line, had never been on the line. So they called me up. I went down to I got to Kandahar and I went to like the holdover tent, just a giant tent for people like in between mid-tour leaves or whatever. And I walk in there and one of my sniper buddies from a different unit that I just run into at ranges and, different courses and stuff. I'm like, hey, what are you doing here? And he's like, I don't know. I'm supposed to go to Bagram meet D. And I was like, buddy, this is going to be great. So we met with the division commander there and he's like, here's what you guys are going to do. Go back to your old sniper sections. Pick out whatever the fuck you need.
Yeah.
And it's yours. Then head down and then find a way to Bagram. If you need, assistance, come get me. But otherwise go to the airfield, get on a flight, get to Bagram. Okay. So I got to go to my old sniper section, which was so much fun because they had been doing diddly squad at that time.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, hey, I need my rifle. And they're like, and especially because it's my old tin sergeant.
Oh, jeez.
They're all
After
like,
all this, still the same guy.
After all this shit, give me whatever I want out of your equipment. And I was just picking whatever I felt like picking up at the time, being a jerk, but I didn't care. Yeah, so picked up my rifle, picked up some other items I wanted. Went to a flight line with my buddy. He did the same thing. Sit on the flight line, trying to get on a flight. And we're also just 2 dudes. We're not like senior ranking NCOs. We're not officers or anything. And we're like looking at the board because I had the board of all the flights.
Oh,
and so in this small plane that's going from Kandahar to Bagram. So we're looking around for the pilot. We finally find these 2 guys that were not, I don't know what the hell they were. Now looking back and now having a little more experience, I'm fairly sure they're CIA.
Oh, yeah.
But they're not dressed like military, but they were military. I don't fucking know. I'm like, hey, we need a ride. And they're like, yeah, cool. Got on a fucking private plane. Which is pretty cool.
Fucking Air America, huh?
Yeah, it's a private plane that's not military, and get to Bagram, link up with LRSD. And what they had done is they came up with this concept that, IEDs are commonly placed the same place at the same time on the same day. So they were starting to find or realize that like on the 1st of every month in this intersection, there's an IED.
Okay.
Or in this road, the first few days or the last few days of the month, there's commonly an IED there. So their plan of action was to insert a 5-man assault team with 1 sniper. So 6 guys, insert them, get them eyes onto that area, dial in your dope. And if you see somebody with a shovel, you just automatic green light. Don't got to call the shit in.
Oh, wow.
And then a little bit of known target hunting. So that, here's a packet, here's some pictures, here's your dude. This is a known location. Hopefully we find him. And just for the mentality of don't plant IEDs, it was to, shoot the dude with the shovel and then exfil and leave the motherfucker there.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, very quickly, it took a very short amount of time. The IED numbers just dropped tremendously.
Really?
Tremendously. Yeah. Imagine that.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, so I operated with them all the way until they were about to redeploy back to Hawaii, and they got to go back early. Special operations guys do all that right seat ride bullshit. So they're getting out like a little bit early, and I was like, I don't really want to fly back with you guys. And they're like, what the fuck? You can go back home like a month early rather than doing the month of stupid shit. They're like, you're not going to be doing patrols and doing you're not going to be operating. You're going to be cleaning gear.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but all my friends are back there. So I went back to my unit. stayed a little bit longer with them, redeployed, came back to Hawaii, started going through all the whatchamacallit, all the we're back, check them out, especially me, because I've been, blown up multiple times. And there's a bunch of other small incidents I'd had where I got busted up a little bit. So, medically checking me out, mentally checking me out. And
this is 2005 now?
Yeah, this is 2005, right?
Okay.
Yeah, 2005. In particular, as one brigade surgeon was like, man, you're getting fucking P3'd. You're done. Like,
God, I can't believe he told
very
you.
significant injuries. He's like, to the point where he's like, in the next 10 years, you're going to be in a fucking wheelchair. He's like, you got to realize, like, you have a severe injury to your lumbar, your back. You have fractured vertebrae. I basically disintegrated 2 discs. And now
which part, upper or lower?
My L1.
Ouch.
So yeah, not a good spot. Not like any of them are good spots.
No,
definitely not a good.
But yeah, that's.
So he tells me all this shit, and I'm like, yeah, it's time to get the fuck out of here. So I'd already re-enlisted in country to go across the road to the new striker unit. From my understanding is they were supposed to immediately redeploy to Iraq, and I wanted to check the box to say I'd been in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Right.
So, I talked to this fucking brigade surgeon who's about to P3 me, and I went straight to my recruiter's office or re-enlistment guy, and I'm like, hey, get my orders now. And he's like, what do you mean? And he's like, you'll come up any minute. I'm like, no, you need to prep my fucking orders and get me across the street. And so that day I grabbed a couple other guys. He printed off some extra orders. They have an NCO take, some lower enlisted every time they moved across the street. I got a few of the guys that also did the same re-enlistment, and I was out that day. So I thought I was in the clear. I'm like, cool, still in the Army. I'm good to go. And I never wanted to get out. I had, after my first couple of years, I was like, this is what I'm doing. I fucking love being in the Army. This is the suck factor almost made me like it more. And I was making those big bucks that you make when you're you're a fucking enlisted Army guy. I just loved it. And plus I was in Hawaii, like training Jitsu all the time. The Army was letting me compete and fight for them. I was doing cool guy shit in the military. Like it was a blast. I had no intentions of ever getting out. I was retiring.
Were you in E5 by this time? Did you make?
I was
E5,
and I made my E6 very, very. I think I made my E6 in 2006. Yeah, I made E6 in like 5 years or something like that. Or,
I can't remember if I asked you this. Did you get promoted in the desert?
I got promoted once. Yeah, we talked about that one where
that was a good one.
Very shortly after I got blown up, I had my board scheduled for my E5.
Oh yeah,
in country. And so I walk in and I'm like, Sergeant Major reporting for the board, take a seat, blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting there, and across the board of fucking members, like, it wasn't all the first sergeants like it's supposed to be, there's like stand-ins because people over the country, And so in particular, there's one guy didn't really know me and I didn't really know him. And he kept asking me questions. I couldn't fucking hear him and I couldn't understand him. And he was getting very highly agitated. And so he's like, I'm getting knife hand. He's yelling at me. And one of the guys on the board tapped him and were like, hey, that fucking big ass IED at Lagman like a week ago, he was driving it. And he like looked up at me and was like, and they're like, he can't hear you. He's like, no further questions. You're good.
Right.
So I had a very easy board. I maxed the board by telling a couple jokes and answering a couple fucking sports fucking questions. Not much board. But yeah, so I made it E5 in country. I made E6 right after I got back. And then,
so you go from 235 to what?
127.
Oh, 127. Okay.
Yep. So I was with the Wolfhounds. Very, very fucking proud of that. It's the Wolfhound units of, I believe I'm not mistaken, they have more like unit citations than like any other unit in the Army.
I think so. I've heard that before.
I might have it off a little bit, but something like that. I mean, they've done some cool shit. So, I spent the rest of my career with 127 Wolfhounds. And then when I got there, like we were talking about earlier about that net training, when you switch over to or switch to strikers, something like that, they switched to strikers.
The new equipment training, yeah.
Which meant we were not going to redeploy to Iraq immediately. We were going to do 3 years of net training. And I'm like, shit, I wanted to go back down range. You know, we do that. We knock out that time. And at this point, it's 2008. We are about to deploy to Iraq. And I start going through all the pre-deployment, green testing, making sure your dental you're in the green at dental, that stupid stuff. So I'm going through all this. And I happen to bump into this fucking medical clearance with this brigade surgeon who I was deathly scared of ever seeing again in my life. I ran into him and he stamped a fucking P3 profile and initiated my medical retirement.
This was the same guy?
Same fucking guy.
Oh man. And you got it. He caught you in the deployment line? God damn.
He saw me, he's like, what are you still doing in the Army? And I was like, no, just being in the Army. And like at this point, you know, I not only I still been in, like, you know, I was fucking staff sergeant at that point.
Right.
You know, looking at deploying in the next month or two, whatever it was. At that
dang, man.
Instead, he fucking P3'd me, and I thought I was gonna cry. Like I was so upset. Like, it just like I had my career mapped out. You know, whatever it might be. I mean, fucking either go down range and fucking die, didn't give a shit. Like, you know, end up going to Q course and going to SF. No fucks known, except for I was going to be in the Army until I retired.
Right.
I've been that crusty old guy at 20 years where they're like, you know, if you commit to a few more, you'll make E9 or something like that. I've been like, I'll commit to 10 more. I don't care. You know, like I really felt that way about the Army and being part of it. So yeah, I very, very
I'm surprised that they jumped straight to P3 and didn't go, well, let's try rehab. Let's try, you know, that whole process before they get to P3.
I did a lot of that process when I first got back from country. And it was very clear that there's only so much rehab they can do for an unrepairable fractured fucking spine, you know? So, and here's the thing, I wasn't at sick hall and I wasn't fucking on profile that whole time. I was still doing the job. I don't think I was on profile once. I mean, I might have been put on it, but I went straight to the trash. Anyway, so I go to my first sergeant's office and I set this fucking piece of shit P3 down in front of him, saying that I'm medically being let go of the Army. And he's like, well, this kind of sucks. And I'm like, yeah, like really sucks. Like I've been being here forever, you know, or being in forever. And he's like, well, you know, like I have a way for you to stay in longer. I'm like, oh, what are we going to do? Let's shred some paperwork. How are we going to do this? And he's like, here's what I need you to do for me. I'm like, what's that? And he's like, I need you to be my rear detachment commander. And
why they go to Iraq?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, hold on. Shit. I'm like, no. Wait, this is absolutely not. You want me to go sit in an office and do formations with a bunch of turds, basically. And he's like, yeah, but it'll buy you another year of the Army. He's like, I can legitimately find a way to buy you another year.
Yeah.
You're not going to be doing what you want, but you get another year. So I said, okay. And I was like, whatever the fucking Army needs of me, I guess. This is not what I want, but
right.
At least I got a year to figure some stuff out. So rear detachment commander for while they were gone, had anywhere between 100, 115 soldiers underneath me that were med boards, Article 15s, getting kicked out of the Army, replacement soldiers go down. I mean, just a mass of fucking shitheads.
Yeah. What, they stick a lieutenant with you, or were you all by yourself?
No, there was an office where I think we had 4 E6s and 1 E7, and we just convened in the same office, and we each had our groups. We had the division, support, brigade support, but they weren't even with us. We didn't see them, which I definitely, as a rear detachment commander, found a way to end up in the division sergeant major's office a couple times, but I'm not a garrison soldier, and I'm definitely not supposed to be left alone.
At this point, would expect nothing less of you. You know, it's,
I was standing there parade rest a couple times, like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, you stuck me in an office. So anyway, yeah. So
Damn.
ended up getting medically retired, and then went back to Colorado.
Wow. Wow.
So
Throughout all that whole thing, what was the event that made you the most proud?
I think it's the ability when people find out I was in the military, like, what did you do in the military? I'm like, well, I'm a retired Army sniper. Like, that's some cool shit to be able to say.
Yeah.
So I think getting through sniper school, and being able to live life as a sniper for a while.
That's pretty good label to have. Was there a period of time, I didn't ask you when we were talking about it, was there a period of time during the school that you thought, hey, I might not make it through this school?
Probably trying to think about how often it was, but I think it was approximately every other minute. Like, because here's the thing. I mean, 44 started. I think it was like we were in day 3, so they had made it through 48 hours, and we were down to 32.
I was going to say every day or every other day, whatever it is, you see another guy's name tag, right, or whatever, or name tape.
Unlike a lot of schools in the military, so in Ranger school, you expect to recycle one of the phases, right?
It seems like that, unless you get peered out, right, or something.
Like for the most part, you're recycling. Yeah. Okay, it's going, and you roll an ankle, you're recycling that phase.
Right.
Not a big deal. Most people recycle. There's no recycling sniper school, and there's no phases. So once you failed, you sometimes, depending on who you are invited to continue the training so that you can go back to your unit with more knowledge.
Yeah.
But you're not recycling. That's it. You're out.
Yeah.
So either you go home, or depending on how you failed out and how you acted as a soldier, is if you get to stay for the training. So I was constantly worried about that.
Sure.
Like every moment in that it was a challenging school. I mean, they don't have that drop rate, but it's easy. So I was worried all the time. Like, fuck, I'm doing target detection. If I miss something, like, fuck, like it could, because you failed one event, you're out. You have to pass all of them. You can't be like, it's not a let's get 70%. It's you will pass every single event. So I was worried, honestly, the whole time.
That to get your attention, it's like, I could be dropped, and then making it through that, I can see why you chose that as your proudest moment. That's nobody can take that away from
my career. Getting pinned my Purple Heart was pretty fucking cool. I got pinned by Lieutenant Colonel McBride, who wasn't just my battalion commander at the time. He was also my friend. He was another distance runner. He would commonly, his office was right over right on the corner, the same corner where like my sniper section was.
Yeah.
And so I'd be walking in for PT, and I'd randomly bump into him and be like, are we going for a run, or do I got to go run with these guys? And like, we would commonly we'd take off and go do a 15-mile run at a not so gentle pace together, so we were buddies. And so, and he pinned it on me at my fire base with my guys. So
that's good. Yeah, that's nice.
That was cool.
That's nice. Okay, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about Zenith Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah. So that's what I guess I wear a lot of hats now, but real quick, I kind of just want to briefly talk about the transition from military to civilianhood.
Oh yeah, sure.
It was not easy for me, to be honest. Had no fucking intention of being a civilian at that time. Didn't want to be. Fucking hated it. Like, just this was not my path.
Really,
I felt like I was on somebody else's path.
Yeah.
And I kept seeing so many of my fellow veteran friends that had gotten out that are fat, schlep, drunk, fucking the furthest thing. Like, in one day, they went from being this person to I don't even know who this person is. Right? I decided that since I enjoyed the military life so much, I should take some of the things out of it and keep them. So. And I also didn't want to end up in a fucking wheelchair. So I kept training jiu-jitsu. Okay. I kept working out every day. I went into the gym industry. I'd still wake up at 5 fucking a.m. I still get up and make my bed. I still, look at my lifestyle, and my way of life is very much as if I'm still in the Army.
Can you still fall asleep in like 5 minutes?
Oh my God, it is. My head touches the pillow. I'm done.
Right.
I did struggle with sleep for a while, but now it's a little different. I think that's partially age too, but sleep when you can. And jiu-jitsu was a big part of my transition. I was logging hours and days on the mats and helping out other veterans, helping out kids programs and victims and things like that, and teaching them a ton of events. I started working a lot with law enforcement for arrest procedural stuff.
Oh wow, very cool.
And disarming, and so I started feeling like I had a lot of that same value and need community as the value and need from being in the military, and I think that helped a ton. Is I didn't quit being a fucking soldier because I got out. I didn't quit being. I didn't lose my way of life and my discipline. I kept going, and I'm thankful I did, because otherwise I might be in a fucking wheelchair and
or worse.
Fucking worse. Bitching about my country, doing the wrong things politically or something like that, and that's just not where I wanted to end up. So, I kept living the jiu-jitsu life, bought into or partnered a huge 10,000 square foot training facility downtown Denver for a while. They say don't go in business with family. Don't ever go in business with family. Fucking terrible idea. But so I got done. I was like, man, I will never have a business partner again in my fucking life. Went out of the industry, not completely. I'd still coach a little bit here and there, and I was still training. And I started dropping into this academy in Parker here and there. I knew the founder and owner little bit. So I was dropping in, and I showed up one day, and it was almost depressing. I walked in, and the founder and owner is sitting there teaching noon class, and he looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. I could tell he was ran down. Yeah. There was only a couple students on the mat, and he's like, man, I'm so fucking exhausted. I am teaching 100% of the classes, and he has a full-time corporate job. Jeez. He had to fire an instructor, and it just some things went south, and he was just not in a good place. He's like, will you please help me out? And I was like, yeah, bro, go fucking home and get some sleep, And so I started teaching, and he was talking to me one time. We were having pizza one time, and he goes, yeah, I've flirted with selling the academy before. And I was like, before you do it, talk to me. I'm not saying I want to buy it. I'm just saying, before you do it, let me talk to you. And we sat down one day to talk about it after I'd been teaching there for a while. And I had to do some deep soul searching on it, because, I'd had a bad experience partnering and
absolutely
owning a gym, but I also had a lot of faith and love and respect for my buddy. And I was talking to him. I was like, man, jiu-jitsu has been a big part of your life. And he has a son also. He's now 13. Amazing kid. I'm buddies with him too. He works on my ranch during the summer. Good kid. And I was like, you built this academy. And I was like, you've had it for over a decade now. I was like, I'll buy it, but I won't buy in and you go out. I was like, I'll only do it if you stay, as a founder and my partner. I was like, because your son's going to want this. Just like my son's going to want this. I was like, I don't want you to live, to wake up 3 years from now and regret not still being part of it. So I was like, I'll head coach it. I'll run it. I'll day in, day out, deal with the instructors. Now I will take on a lot of the academy. You take some back end, out some, and let's do this and let's have fun, and that was 2 years ago. The academy's doing better than it's ever done before. We have an amazing staff. Nice. We have an amazing culture inside of our academy, a ton of veterans, active duty, law enforcement, firefighters, first responders. Not only that, we got a great kids program. I get to do the same things I've been doing for a long time, which is, seeking out to help out victims from physical attacks or abuse or things like that. Help out kids who are getting bullied. Consistently work with all my law enforcement guys in there, helping them be more effective on the street and more safe. I care a lot about their safety as well as the guys that they're arresting. That's a big issue we have right now in society, and my only way of dealing with it is giving help in an area which I know a little bit about. So
sure.
I live the Jitsu life, run a ranch, parent my midget terrorist, spend as much time as I can with my wife, and that's pretty much my story now.
Staff Sergeant Seth Rodenbaugh, co-owner of Zenith Jiu-Jitsu in Parker, Colorado.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for taking the time again. I still see it's recording up here. So I think we're good. But, man, it's been an honor. It's been a privilege to get your story, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for what you're doing on the show and continue to help out the veteran community.
And for those of you listening, you can catch Seth on From the Ashes Radio with Rob Williams every Monday at 6 o'clock Mountain Time.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Seth.
Thank you, sir.
On behalf of Staff Sergeant Rodenbaugh, I'd like to thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please leave a like and a comment and share the podcast with someone else. And as always, make sure to download the next episode for more service origin stories. So until next time, attention!